Before we get to the game itself, the big news today coming out of Houston, national news story, Matt Schaub has a significant foot injury, is out for an indefinite period. Eric, what does this mean for the Texans? The 7-3 Texans, everything was lining up just right this year, and now you're looking at Matt Schaub as a question mark for the rest of the season.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious it's not how you draw it out, but it is what it is. And the train's got to stay on the tracks, and we got to do everything we can to keep it there. So Leinart's going to come in. He's going to play great. He's going to do what he's been doing in practices and the time he's been able to get out there, whether it's preseason games or this past game. He's going to lead the offense, and the defense is going to continue to play well, and we're going to support around him, and he's going to make the plays. So I've got all the faith in the world in him. I think the rest of the team does too, but obviously it's always a tough blow when you lose your quarterback.
The offense, Gary Kubiak's offense has always been designed sort of as a replaceable parts thing, right? A guy gets hurt or is not available to play, you can plug somebody right in. Does that work the same way for the quarterback spot, though?
Well, I wouldn't say it's replaceable. I think we have an identity, and I think we have an offense, and we stick to it. And I think that's why you have the ability to plug players in at receiver, at anywhere, at offensive line, fullback, running back. And we'll see about it at quarterback. Obviously, Matt hasn't missed a lot of games in the last 3 or 4 years, so it's going to be a little different. But at the same time, Leinart's on the team for a reason. He's on the roster for a reason, and we think he can play. And we're going to definitely see that coming up.
What do you think, ND? The Texans sunk without Matt Schaub?
No, not at all. I've been talking about, on the show we do on Sports Radio 610, that even with the injury to Matt Schaub, I still have the same expectations. I still expect this team to go to the playoffs, to go deep in it, because when you're looking at the Houston Texans of the 2011 season, you have the best offensive line in the NFL, you have the best running back tandem in the NFL, and you have the #1 ranked defense. So I understand losing your quarterback is a huge blow, but if Matt Leinart, who I think never really got a fair shake in Arizona, you don't draft somebody first round and not allow him to start 2 or 3 seasons before you deem him not good enough. But that's another story for another day.
Tell that to the Broncos.
That's another story for another day. But my expectations, my goals for my old team, for his current team, is still deep into the playoffs because it's a good team right now, and all he has to do is be a good manager. I'm sure he doesn't want to hear that from me. He feels he could be better than a manager at the quarterback position. But if he could just make sure he keeps the turnovers down, throw those quote-unquote easy passes, I expect them to still reel off the 5 or 6 more wins before they go into the playoffs.
Steph, as sort of the fans representative here, we know you're more than just a fan, but
right.
Texans fans have to be thinking, man, this is the year, everything's going right, and then this happens. How big of a how much does it take the wind out of the sails of the Texans?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to think that the Texans have a bit of a whammy on them, after losing Andre for part of the season, losing Mario Williams for the entire year, and now what looks to, losing Matt Schaub. He's been out before, and, people kind of dog the Texans to some degree in a way I think is unfair. It's like, oh, you have a systems offense, you have a system quarterback, you have system running backs, you have system offensive line. Well, at some point, if you're going to be a successful team, you have to have a system and a philosophy that makes sense, and you plug people in that fit what you're doing. But then if you have special players, you do the things that suit what they do best and take away from the things that they don't do so well. And so, I mean, in the past, Schaub has missed some games. During that time, the offense still ran, and that was at a time where the running game wasn't very good, and the defense, to be polite about it, was atrocious. So so I mean, they were able to have an offense move. Now the big question is, okay, is the defense going to look as good when maybe you're playing some more difficult offenses? When if the offense maybe has more 3 and outs, will the offense continue to be able to take some of the time? Because if you look at the defense right now, time of possession, they have about the least amount of time of possession. Part of that is the offense, but then part of it is they're forcing punts.
They are. The defense working well. From a basic standpoint, Eric, my big question is, you switch from a right-handed quarterback to a left-handed quarterback. How much of that is an issue? Now you're suddenly blocking for the blind side with the left-handed quarterback in there, and it seems like the offense maybe runs a little differently too.
Yeah, I think that's been sensationalized a little bit. Oh, you got the blind side now. They still rush the same way. They still do. I still got to set the same way, and things won't change from that. You know, you might see, obviously, since he's a lefty, you're probably going to see things that benefit a lefty. You might roll him left a little bit more, so he's in a quicker throwing position. But just yesterday, you know, we rolled Matt, I guess, left too, you know, and he threw across his body. So they're going to do a lot of different things. You might see some play actions more to the left and sometimes to the right because it sets them up better. It'll be interesting to see how they go with that. I can't remember a left-handed quarterback ever in Denver. I guess you have to go back to Steve Young. Steve Young. So you know it does flip things, I guess, for you in a sense. But at the same time, the playbook's not going to change. The protections, how we block the protections, don't change, and how we pick everything up doesn't change. So and the routes won't change. So from that standpoint, I think sometimes it's made out to be a little bit more than it really is.
Matt Leinart hasn't started but one game in the last 4 years. Do you feel like he got a fair shake in Arizona? And I guess, how do you gauge whether he's a better quarterback than he was there?
Yeah, you know, I always looked at it from I didn't really know him. I met him a few times in college, but you look at it from that vantage point, and like Indy said, you know, you draft a guy 10th overall, 11th overall, wherever it was, you start him for a year, then a new head coach comes in and decides that's not his guy. You know, it's kind of, it makes you wonder, but it is what it is, and I know Matt would say the same thing. It is what it is out there. He learned a lot, and you know, now he's here, and I know this the guy won a Heisman Trophy at USC. He had to do something right. He's got a lot of physical skills. I see him around the practice all the time, and he puts a lot of crisp, a lot of good throws together in practice. Running the scout team, or whether he's getting a couple of reps with the ones, he treats them all seriously, and I know that, like I said, everyone's panicking right now. Everyone's thinking for some reason the season's over. But like Steph said, we've got a great defense. They're playing unbelievable. Our running game's working well. And I know that Leinert's going to be able to do some things in our pass game. And obviously with 80 coming back, or looks like he's coming back, that's not going to hurt anything either.
Yeah, the bye week coming at a good time. It actually gives Matt Leinart a chance, an extra week, to get ready to step into that starter's role and hold it down as long as Schaub is out.